And now what I'd like to do is go through Ezekiel with you, because I think Jeremiah is very difficult to get through and find any rhyme or reason to it, and I'm not sure it's a totally homogeneous book, and I don't feel like going through a book the way we've got to go through Genesis and Exodus again. Whereas Ezekiel is really, except for the last, again we have a problem with the last 7 or 8 chapters of Ezekiel. But it isn't the same kind of problem, because it's obvious in Ezekiel's case that the last 7 or 8 chapters are not by the. Once again, I think we have a kind of a break there, put it that way. By chapter 40, something new happens, and it's a vision of the future temple. So from 40 to 48, it's another kind of thing entirely. But it may be authentic, it may not. But if we get to it, we will. But it's not really so important for understanding Ezekiel as a historical person. So let's take a look at what we need to do here with Ezekiel. I hope you can get the notes for Isaiah from somebody. It was pretty complex, and I was surprised at, in fact, how complex it got to be by the time we got through the second part, because the second part actually took us the whole period last time, which I was surprised. I didn't think it would, but it did. Well, we have to go backwards. Ezekiel is writing for the second part of Isaiah. If we agree that Isaiah is, the second part is a later book. So when was Isaiah's second part, we think, perhaps finally written? At least the main part of it, not some of the material towards the end, which looks a little bit, maybe corrupted a bit. What they call third Isaiah, even though when did we say second Isaiah was written about?
500?
Oh, well, when did Cyrus come? Whenever Cyrus comes, that's when it was written. You know, it's greeting Cyrus as the Messiah. I don't think it's retrospective. What do we mean by retrospective? Looking back in time. It's authentic greeting of Cyrus. Of course, the way it wants you to think about it is that it's not retrospective, it's prophetic in that it's foreseeing Cyrus coming. But I think it's clear enough from what we read that, just if we're a courtroom and we're going to be a judge and jury, that it's contemporary with Cyrus, and even that is an incredible thing. To have a document from 540 BC that basically is what it says it is, that's just astonishing. How many cultures, Greek, Latin, you name it, can date an actual document from a year that early? You know, it's really impressive. And Ezekiel is earlier. Ezekiel, he says when it is. And I believe he's right. I believe that this is authentic. And I don't think it's touched up at all, except the last part that I just mentioned. But this material here, and Ezekiel is a totally different, he's a different personality entirely. He's a major prophet in that he's a huge piece of work. I don't know, I guess we could write it in a couple of days, so it's not that huge. But actually to write something like this, probably in the way that it's written, would take some time and some inspiration. And it's pretty impressive. I don't know how they poured out over a period of 1,000 years this continual output of interesting documents. It isn't just like the New Testament. All right, I'm not against it for, but it is only written in a short space of time, 30, 40 years. It's not written over 1,000-year span of time. So, I mean, okay, you can keep the excitement up for 30, 40 years perhaps, but how do you keep up the excitement for 1,000 years? That's really, and who knows what else they wrote that they didn't conserve. This is only what they preserved. It's not what else may have existed. Like we have the scrolls now, and we see what a vast literature was going on in the Second Temple period. So who knows what was going on in how many other works did Ezekiel write? This is the only book he ever wrote. You don't think he wrote, a guy like this couldn't have written 10 or 20 other ones? So I don't know, and, Isaiah, the first part of Isaiah would be equivalent to this Ezekiel. But this is, he says, in the 30th year, on the 5th day of the month, as I was among the exiles on the bank of the river Chebar, the heavens opened, and I had these visions from God. On the 5th month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiakim. Okay, there we have a kind of date. Jehoiakim is one of the last kings of Judah, the southern kingdom, but he's not the last one. I think that there are other ones that you have to read the book of Kings a little bit and the Chronicles, and correlate this with the book of Kings and correlate this with the book of Kings and Chronicles. We could look, but let's just take a quick look while since we have a little time, hopefully, to go through this book here. If I can find it. It should be at the end, so that's only Yoyada, Yotam, Oded, Hezekiah. I'm looking at 2 Chronicles. It's got to be at the end.
Yeah, mine says 598 BC, around there.
Yeah, well, that's when it would be written, but there's more, what I'm saying, there should be more kings after him. One king, Zedekiah. Zedekiah, right? Yeah. He's not the last king under whom the temple, so 2 Chronicles doesn't actually go up to that point. Let's see, we probably may have to go to Ezra and Nehemiah, perhaps. Let's look at 2 Kings. Yeah, 2 Kings does go up there. Yeah, 2 Kings does, you see. You say, well, what do you mean? 2 Chronicles and Kings are fairly parallel in certain regards. So we have Jehoiaz. My Bible says this is 23-24, up to 609. Jehoiakim, there he is, 609 to 598. And it says he was 25 years old when he came to the throne. He reigned for 11 years. His mother, they know some material, was Zebedah, and his daughter Pedaiah from Rumah. He did what was displeasing to the Lord, just as his ancestors had done. You can see the same hand wrote this as put judges together, because he uses the same style. He did what was good, or he had 30 sons and daughters who rode on donkeys, colts, and so on and so forth. It gets repetitious. So he doesn't really know anything about Jehoiakim. He just says he did what was displeasing. How does he know? He doesn't know. He has no idea what this fellow did or didn't do. So that really isn't very appropriate. But Nebuchadnezzar invaded. Jehoiakim, he's the king of Babylon, was his vassal for 3 years. Then he rebelled, and so Nebuchadnezzar sent bands of Arameans, Moabites, Ammonites, and so on to raid his territory. This is all supposedly, this is his view of things. I guess the Deuteronomists would consider all was due to the anger of the Lord or Yahweh. So in any case, the rest of the book, Jehoiakim, his entire career, is it not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? Well, is it? Where is it? That's another book we don't have. Where is the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? That's Chronicles, perhaps, but Chronicles doesn't go up to this point from what we can see. So, pardon me, that's Jehoiakim. This is Jehoiakim now. Pardon me, he's got a son with us. That was his father. And he was 18 years old when he came to the throne, and he displeased Yahweh just as far. Well, come on, how does he know that? So that's why I don't read these books too seriously. They're not bad. I mean, they're better than nothing. I mean, what happened in America in 1665? If you got a record of what went on here in 1665, I mean, they're better than nothing. So there's some stuff. Anyway, Nebuchadnezzar carried off the treasures of the temple and a lot of exiles and so on. And they made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king. And he changed his name to Zedekiah.